Every legend you've ever heard about, every champion you've ever admired, they all have one thing in common: a savage mentality. It's not just about how much weight you can lift or how fast you can move. It's about how unbreakable your mindset is when life pushes back. The gym is more than four walls and iron plates. It's a war zone for your spirit. Each rep, each drop of sweat, each moment of pain is testing what you're made of. And the savage, he doesn't back down. He doesn't need applause or recognition. He shows up day after day because he's built to conquer. This mentality isn't about arrogance, it's about discipline, self-control, and hunger that refuses to die. The savage doesn't wait for perfect conditions, he creates them. He doesn't cry about pain, he turns it into power. He doesn't quit when he's tired, he stops only when he's done. Because the savage doesn't chase comfort, he hunts growth. And every time he steps into that gym, he's not training his body alone, he's sharpening his soul, molding his mindset, and building a version of himself that nothing and no one can bring. You want to win? Then stop thinking like the weak. Train your mind to command your body. Build the kind of discipline that roars louder than excuses. Savage mentality begins long before the first breath, long before the first drop of sweat touches the floor. It begins in silence, deep inside your thoughts, when you decide that weakness will no longer have a home in your mind. It's not about anger or rage. It's about a decision, the decision to never give up, no matter how heavy life or the bar becomes. The moment you understand that every limitation you face starts in your mind, you begin to take control of your reality. The gym becomes the place where you build that control brick by brick, rep by rep, until your body becomes the reflection of your willpower. When you wake up and your body screams for rest, the savage voice inside your mind whispers, "Get up." That voice doesn't care about how tired you are, how sore your muscles feel, or how much you did yesterday. It only cares about the mission, because the mission doesn't stop when you're comfortable. It stops when you conquer the version of you that keeps holding you back. Every day you walk into the gym, that mental battle begins again. It's not against the weights, it's against the whispers of doubt that try to pull you back to comfort. You learn that strength has very little to do with muscle and everything to do with mindset. The man who wins in the gym is not the one who lifts the heaviest weight. It's the one who refuses to quit when his body says stop. The mind must lead, and the body must follow. The savage doesn't wait for the perfect condition. He creates it through consistency. He knows that even a weak body can become powerful when led by an unbreakable mind. As you train, pain starts to show up. That's when the savage begins to rise. The average person runs from discomfort. The savage embraces it. He knows pain is a sign that progress is happening, that growth is in motion. He doesn't seek to escape it. He uses it as a reminder that he's alive, that he's evolving. Each breath becomes a dialogue between his mind and his body, a conversation where the mind always wins. When failure hits, the savage doesn't complain, he studies it. He understands that failure is part of the process, that every setback is a setup for something stronger. He doesn't allow mistakes to define him, he allows them to refine him. The savage mentality is built on resilience, on the ability to rise again, to push again, to believe again, even when nothing seems to be working. A savage knows that thoughts are seeds, and whatever he plants in his mind will grow in his life. If he plants doubt, he reaps hesitation. If he plants discipline, he reaps results. That's why he guards his mind like a warrior guards his sword. He feeds it with focus, faith, and determination. The gym becomes his temple of transformation, not just of the body, but of the soul. Every time the savage stares at the mirror, he doesn't see his reflection, he sees his next challenge. He doesn't admire the progress too long because he knows that comfort is the enemy. The moment he starts thinking he's made it, he loses his edge. So he keeps reminding himself that the real battle is not outside, it's inside. The mirror isn't there to show how far he's come. It's there to remind him how far he still can go. In moments of exhaustion, when the world seems quiet and your body feels heavy, that's when the savage inside whispers the truth. You've got more. He digs deeper, not for recognition, but because his spirit won't allow mediocrity. He trains his mind to stay calm under pressure, to stay fierce in fatigue, and to stay grateful in the grind. Every small victory builds another layer of mental armor. Each day of discipline adds another stone to the fortress of his mindset. The savage doesn't rush results, he trusts the process. He knows every rep, every sweat, every breath is constructing something greater within him, something the eye can't see, but the heart can feel. And through that consistent war between comfort and commitment, the savage mentality takes over completely. It becomes who he is, not what he does. His thoughts transform into action, his pain transforms into strength, and his fear transforms into faith. That's the kind of mindset that builds not just a powerful body, but an unshakable life. A savage mentality is built on discipline, not motivation. Motivation is temporary. It comes and goes with moods, weather, and emotions. Discipline, however, is constant. It's the decision to act regardless of how you feel. When you rely only on motivation, you train only when it's convenient. But when you build discipline, you train because it's necessary. This savage understands this difference. He doesn't wait to feel ready, because he knows that the mind will always try to find a reason to delay growth. Discipline is what separates those who wish from those who achieve. When the alarm goes off before dawn, most people hit snooze. But the savage rises, not because it's easy, but because his purpose outweighs his comfort. Discipline tells him, you made a promise to yourself, now keep it. That promise becomes sacred. Each time he follows through, he strengthens his mind. Each time he breaks it, he weakens his own trust. The savage understands that keeping his word to himself is the foundation of strength. If you can't control your own actions, how will you ever control your results? Discipline isn't loud, it's quiet and relentless. It doesn't seek attention or applause. It's the unseen force that drives the existence. The savage doesn't talk about his plans, he executes them. He doesn't announce his sacrifices, he just makes them. The results become his voice, because true discipline doesn't need to prove itself. It shows itself through transformation. Every time he shows up tired, sore, or unmotivated, he's feeding his discipline, not his excuses. The gym becomes a place where discipline is tested daily. It's where your comfort zone ends and your growth begins. The savage doesn't ask, do I feel like training today? He asks, what needs to be done today? That shift in mindset changes everything. Because feelings fluctuate, but discipline endures. It's not about how much he can lift once. It's about how often he's willing to lift, even when he doesn't want to. That's where champions are made in repetition, not in random bursts of effort. A disciplined savage understands that progress doesn't happen overnight. It happens in small, unseen moments, in the choices no one notices. He knows that missing one workout might not destroy him, but it weakens the habit. And the habit is sacred. He protects it like a soldier guards his duty. Because once the habit breaks, weakness finds a way in. So, he remains consistent, even when results come slow, because he trusts that persistence will always outlast temporary effort. The savage doesn't depend on energy drinks, hype music, or crowd validation to stay focused. His discipline is internal. It's not powered by noise, it's powered by purpose. He knows that discipline built in silence will make the loudest noise in success. Every repetition is an investment. Every drop of sweat a reminder that he's working for something greater. The savage knows that while others are sleeping and wasting time, he's creating a version of himself that no one can compete with. There are days when his body aches, his mind feels heavy, quitting seems easier, but discipline whispers, keep going, and he listens. Because discipline isn't about perfection, it's about showing up. It's about staying loyal to the process even when the progress feels invisible. That's the mindset that transforms ordinary men into extraordinary ones. The ability to stay consistent when no one's watching, when no one claps, when no one believes. Each day of discipline compounds into something powerful. The savage knows that small, consistent effort multiplies over time. A single workout may not change his life, but 100 disciplined days will. It's not about intensity, it's about consistency. He focuses on showing up, mastering the basics, and improving one step at a time. Because the savage mindset doesn't chase instant gratification. It builds long-term greatness. Through discipline, he builds patience. He learns that the results he desires won't come fast, but they will come. Discipline teaches him to trust time and effort instead of emotion. It's not about rushing success, it's about deserving it. Every disciplined day plants a seed, and soon those seeds grow into strength, confidence, and control. The savage understands that discipline is the price you pay for freedom. Freedom from laziness, doubt, and regret. And when people ask him what keeps him going, he smiles because they won't understand. They think it's motivation, but it's not. It's that unbreakable bond between his mind and his goal. Discipline is his weapon, his armor, his compass. It guides him through fatigue, failure, and frustration. And in the end, while others wonder how he stayed consistent, the savage simply knows. He didn't wait to feel ready. He trained his mind to never need a reason to. A savage mentality thrives on the ability to control emotions. Most people are ruled by how they feel. They train when they're excited, quit when they're frustrated, and slow down when they're tired. But the savage has mastered the art of emotional control. He doesn't allow anger, boredom, or fatigue to dictate his discipline. He knows that emotions are temporary, but commitment must be permanent. The moment he steps into the gym, he leaves his feelings at the door and focuses only on the mission. To be stronger, sharper, and more relentless than he was yesterday. The savage understands that emotions can either fuel you or destroy you. When pain comes, he doesn't curse it, he channels it. When life gets difficult, he doesn't complain. He converts pressure into power. He doesn't let frustration make him quit. He lets it make him sharper. This kind of control doesn't come easy. It's built through repetition, through facing discomfort over and over until the mind learns that pain isn't a signal to stop. It's a signal to grow. In the gym, emotions will rise when the weights feel heavier than usual, when progress slows, or when setbacks come. But the savage remains calm. He knows that frustration clouds judgment. When others throw the bar down in anger or skip their last set in defeat, he breathes, refocuses, and finishes. That calmness under pressure separates the strong from the weak. Because in the moment when emotions take over, the mind loses clarity and progress disappears. A savage doesn't allow his emotions to control his effort. He doesn't let a bad day become a bad week. He doesn't let one missed breath become an excuse to stop showing up. Instead, he trains himself to act according to principle, not emotion. Whether he feels tired, uninspired, or even angry, he still moves with discipline, because he knows that greatness is built in the moments when you don't feel like doing it but do it anyway. Every rep becomes a lesson in patience and control. When fatigue hits, he doesn't panic, he welcomes it. When the muscles burn, he doesn't fear it, he knows it's part of the process. The savage mindset is not about ignoring emotions, it's about mastering them. It's about feeling everything but never letting those feelings decide your action. The mind stays in command, the mission stays in focus, and the emotions serve as fuel, not as brakes. Outside the gym, that same mindset carries into life. The savage knows that challenges will come, people will doubt him, and circumstances will shift. But he doesn't react, he responds. He doesn't let negativity from others change his energy. He stays grounded, focused, and calm under pressure. Because the one who can control his emotions can control any situation. This control gives him strength that no physical power can match. When failure strikes, instead of breaking down, the savage analyzes it, he learns from it. He doesn't waste energy feeling sorry for himself. He looks for the lesson in the pain. That's how emotional control becomes a weapon. It keeps him level when the world tries to shake him. He doesn't chase validation. He doesn't crave sympathy. And he doesn't let setbacks define his mood. He stays steady because his mind is trained to rise above the chaos. The savage understands that emotions can lie. They can tell you that you're tired when you're not finished, that you're weak when you still have more to give. So, he doesn't let emotions make decisions, he lets his discipline decide. That's why he achieves results others only dream of. While everyone else is ruled by how they feel, he's ruled by his mission. His emotional control turns him into a machine of focus, consistency, and power. This kind of control takes time, but every time he overcomes emotion with reason, he strengthens his mental armor. Each day he chooses logic over laziness, patience over panic, and focus over frustration. He becomes harder to break. The savage knows that the mind must stay calm in chaos, because chaos is where real growth happens. By mastering emotions, he masters himself, and a man who masters himself is unstoppable. In the end, this control becomes second nature. He no longer reacts impulsively or gives in to weakness. He moves with intention, speaks with control, and trains with purpose. His emotions no longer dictate his days, his vision does. The savage doesn't fight against emotion. He uses it as a tool. He channels pain into passion, fear into focus, and doubt into drive. That's why when others fall apart under pressure, he thrives in it, because he's not led by emotion. He leads his emotion. The savage mentality understands that comfort is the biggest trap. Comfort whispers lies. It tells you that you've done enough, that rest is earned, that progress can wait. But the savage knows that comfort kills growth. Every time you give in to ease, you trade potential for pleasure. He knows that comfort may inside discomfort builds something unbreakable inside. He's aware that the body only grows when it's under stress, and the same is true for the mind. So, he welcomes that stress, that fatigue, that fire in his lungs, because he knows it's sculpting not only muscle, but also resilience. Most people avoid what hurts. The savage runs toward it. He seeks the moments that others fear, because he knows that inside those moments, transformation hides. He knows that growth doesn't live in comfort zones. It lives in pain zones. Every bead of sweat, every burning muscle, every breath that feels heavier than the last, that's where real power is built. That's where the weak stop and the strong continue. That's where the savage mindset is forged. Comfort is seductive because it offers temporary relief. But the savage knows relief is not reward. He's not after what feels good today. He's after what builds strength for tomorrow. So when most people skip training, he's already in motion. When others take shortcuts, he chooses the hard path. Because he knows that success never comes to the one who seeks comfort. It comes to the one who embraces discomfort like a friend. When the body starts to tremble under pressure, the savage doesn't stop. He pushes harder. He knows that's the exact moment when the average person gives up. That's where the savage takes over. He's learned to find peace inside pain, to find purpose inside pressure. His mind no longer associates discomfort with suffering. It associates it with becoming. That's the key difference between those who plateau and those who rise beyond limits. In every workout, the savage intentionally challenges himself. He adds more weight, more reps, more resistance. Not to impress others, but to remind himself that he's still capable of more. He doesn't fear the burn. He seeks it because he knows that the burn means progress is alive. The discomfort becomes addictive not because it's pleasant, but because it's proof that he's growing. Even outside the gym, this mindset shapes his life. When opportunities come disguised as challenges, he doesn't retreat. He steps forward. He's trained his mind to see struggle as a signal of advancement. While others complain about hard times, he quietly works through them, knowing that discomfort today will bring strength tomorrow. His comfort is not found in ease. It's found in endurance. The savage mindset transforms how he perceives obstacles. Where others see barriers, he sees building blocks. He doesn't ask for the road to be easier. He asks for himself to be stronger. That's the mentality that keeps him consistent even when motivation dies. He's not waiting for the path to clear. He's building the courage to walk through the storm. Because comfort will never create the man he's destined to become. Every savage knows that the pain of discipline is far lighter than the pain of regret. So he chooses discomfort every day willingly. He trains when tired, eats clean when tempted, and stays focused when distracted. That daily discomfort sharpens his soul. He knows that every time he resists comfort, he earns control over his habits, his thoughts, his destiny. And in that control, he finds freedom. Freedom from laziness, from excuses, from weakness. He becomes addicted to challenge, because that's where true strength hides. The savage no longer runs from pain, he walks toward it with pride, because he knows that every second spent in discomfort is a deposit into the account of greatness. Comfort may offer rest, but discomfort offers transformation, and the savage always chooses transformation. A savage mentality is built on discipline, not feelings, not hype, not temporary motivation, but relentless, consistent discipline. Motivation fades, energy runs low, but discipline stands tall. The savage doesn't wait to feel ready. He acts because he's committed. When the alarm goes off before dawn, he doesn't argue with his emotions, he moves. His goals don't bend to how he feels, his feelings bend to his goals. That's the difference between those who wish and those who win. He knows that discipline isn't about doing what's easy. It's about doing what's required, even when every part of him wants to stop. The gym becomes his proving ground, not just for muscles, but for mastery over himself. Each rep becomes a test. Can he keep pushing when his mind screams to quit? Every drop of sweat is a reminder that progress doesn't care about comfort. The savage trains his discipline the way he trains his body, through repetition, resistance, and pain. There are days when nothing goes right, when the body feels heavy, when fatigue takes over, and when everything inside him says, rest. But the savage refuses to bow down to weakness. He knows that skipping one day can turn into skipping 1 week, and skipping 1 week can destroy months of work. So he moves anyway. He trains not just to build muscle, but to protect his promise to himself. Every time he shows up when it's hard, he reinforces that he's not controlled by excuses. He's guided by purpose. The savage understands that discipline is freedom. It sounds strange, but it's true. The more disciplined he becomes, the freer he is from laziness, distraction, and regret. When others are chained by comfort, he's liberated by consistency. He doesn't need to rely on motivation because his discipline has already decided what must be done. The savage doesn't ask, do I feel like it? He asks, did I commit to it? That single shift separates him from the rest. Discipline for the savage extends far beyond the gym. It's in the way he eats, the way he speaks, the way he thinks, and the way he carries himself. He guards his focus like treasure. He knows that one undisciplined habit can poison everything he's built. So he watches what he feeds his mind, what company he keeps, and what thoughts he allows to linger. He's intentional about his environment because he understands that discipline thrives where distractions die. The savage trains himself to embrace the boring, repetitive routines that others run from. He knows that success hides in repetition. It's not about doing something once. It's about doing it over and over until it becomes part of who he is. The savage doesn't chase excitement. He builds habits. He doesn't seek new shortcuts. He masters old basics. Because in the end, it's not the fancy moves that build greatness. It's the disciplined repetition of small actions. He's aware that discipline requires sacrifice. It cannot be disciplined and comfortable at the same time. The savage sacrifices short, turn pleasures for long, turn purpose. While others indulge, he invests. While others rest, he refines. While others talk about what they'll do, he quietly does it. His discipline speaks louder than any words could. Every sacrifice adds to his strength, not just physical, but mental and spiritual. Even when no one's watching, the savage stays consistent. He doesn't perform for applause, he performs for progress. His discipline is private, his grind is personal. He knows that real warriors are not built in front of crowds. They're built in silence, in sweat, and in solitude. Discipline for him is not about being seen. It's about becoming something unseen, stronger, sharper, unbreakable. The savage's discipline is fueled by clarity. He knows why he's doing this. He's not just training to look good, he's training to be better. Every rep, every meal, every early morning is part of a mission. That mission gives meaning to the grind. When the purpose is clear, discipline becomes natural. The savage doesn't need to force it anymore. It flows because he knows what's at stake. And at the end of the day, the savage discipline becomes his identity. It's no longer what he does, it's who he is. He doesn't have to remind himself to stay on track. It's against himself. A savage mentality is having an obsession with progress. Not perfection, not praise, but progress. The savage doesn't seek overnight results. He seeks daily growth. He understands that greatness is built brick by brick, day after day. He's not comparing his chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20. He's focused on being better than he was yesterday. That's the true mark of a savage, an unrelenting hunger to improve, no matter how small the step. He treats each workout as a chance to evolve. Whether it's adding one more rep, lifting one more kilo, or holding form for one more second, he chases that micro-improvement like his life depends on it. The savage knows that massive transformation is simply the result of small, consistent victories. While others look for a shortcut, he builds strength the slow way through discipline, patience, and an unshakable focus on progress. There are days when progress feels invisible. The mirror looks the same, the scale doesn't move, and the body feels tired. But the savage doesn't stop. He knows that unseen progress is still progress. Muscles are growing, endurance is building, and the mind is sharpening, even if it's not visible yet. He trusts the process because he knows that persistence always pays off for those who refuse to quit. The savage is not motivated by applause. He's motivated by advancement. He doesn't care if people notice his growth. He notices it. He keeps track of every win, no matter how small. He remembers where he started and reminds himself how far he's come. That reflection fuels him. It reminds him that even on his worst days, he's still miles ahead of the version of himself that once doubted he could start. When others chase perfection, the savage embraces imperfection. He knows perfection is an illusion, a trap that stops progress. Instead of waiting for everything to be right, he acts with what he has. If his gym isn't perfect, he trains anyway. If his energy isn't full, he gives what he can. The savage's power lies in his ability to keep moving forward despite imperfections. Progress, not perfection, is his motto. The savage also knows that progress demands patience. Building a strong body takes time. Building a strong mind takes even longer, but he's not in a rush. He's not chasing a quick fix. He's building something that lasts. He knows that every slow rep, every disciplined meal, every early morning compounds into something unstoppable. That's why he never lets frustration take control. He channels it into focus. He celebrates effort more than outcome. Every time he pushes through pain, he wins. Every time he chooses the gym over excuses, he wins. Every time he shows up on a bad day, he wins. To the savage, those small wins are the heartbeat of success. He understands that greatness is not built in one moment of glory. It's built in 1,000 quiet moments of choosing progress over comfort. When setbacks come, the savage doesn't see them as failure. He sees them as feedback. If he gets injured, he learns. If he falls behind, he recalibrates. If something doesn't work, he adjusts. He never sees a wall, only a new challenge to climb. His obsession with progress keeps him from staying stuck. Each obstacle becomes another chance to test his strength and refine his mindset. Progress for the savage isn't just about muscle, it's about mastery. He's training his patience, his discipline, his humility, and his gratitude. The stronger he becomes in the gym, the calmer he becomes in life. Every rep teaches him something about persistence, and every challenge teaches him something about faith. His body is transforming, but so is his spirit. At the end of each day, the savage asks one question: did I grow today? If the answer is yes, even in the smallest way, then he's winning. Because he knows true success is not about where you are. It's about whether you're moving forward. This savage mentality is built on that truth. Slow progress is Every drop of sweat, every moment of struggle, every aching muscle is shaping a version of himself that can't be broken by weakness. He sees pain as proof that he's pushing beyond what the average man can endure. When he steps into the gym, he doesn't avoid discomfort, he hunts it. He knows that resistance is the key to growth, both in body and in mind. Each time he lifts something heavier than before, each time he goes one more round when his body says stop, he's training more than just muscle. He's training resilience. A savage welcomes pain because he understands it's the language of progress. Where others stop, he starts becoming. There are days when his body feels exhausted and his willpower feels drained. But that's when the savage within him rises. He doesn't need to feel ready to act. He just acts. He doesn't wait for motivation because he's built his mindset on discipline. Motivation may fade with mood, but discipline stands tall in silence. And that's what separates the savage from the crowd. He does what needs to be done, not just what he feels like doing. When the weights feel heavier than usual, when his breath shortens and his muscles burn, he doesn't complain. He reminds himself that growth never happens in the comfort zone. He whispers to himself, pain is my teacher. That voice keeps him going, pushing through every set, every rep, and every moment when others would walk away. He's not running from pain, he's learning from it. The savage also knows that pain reveals character. Anyone can lift when they're full of energy, the music is loud, and the environment is perfect. But only a savage lifts when he's tired, when his mind is cloudy, and no one is watching. Pain strips away all pretense and reveals who truly wants it. And every time he endures, he earns a deeper level of respect, not from others, but from himself. He doesn't see pain as a reason to stop. He sees it as a signal to keep going. The stronger the pain, the closer he is to breaking through. Every rep under tension is a reminder that strength is being built beneath the surface. His mindset transforms pain into fuel, struggle into focus, and fatigue into fire. He turns hardship into habit and habit into power. The savage finds meaning in what others avoid. While most people fear failure, he sees it as part of the process. Every failed lift teaches him something. Every missed goal gives him direction. Instead of letting pain defeat him, he studies it, adapts, and comes back harder. He doesn't seek a life without struggle. He seeks a life strong enough to overcome it. Pain also humbles the savage. It reminds him that no matter how strong he becomes, there's always another level to reach. It keeps him grounded, disciplined, and hungry. Instead of letting success make him arrogant, he lets pain keep him aware of his humanity. He embraces it because he knows that humility and hunger are what keep a warrior sharp. When others run from discomfort, the savage runs toward it. He doesn't pray for an easier road. He prays for stronger legs. He doesn't hope the weight gets lighter. He hopes he gets stronger. That mindset makes him unstoppable. Because when pain comes, and it always does, he's not surprised. He's ready. He knows that pain is not the end of the path. It's a part of the journey. Every scar, every sore muscle, every moment of fatigue tells a story of persistence, not weakness. The savage wears his pain as proof of his dedication. He knows that every ounce of suffering is shaping a champion who refuses to quit. In the end, he doesn't just train his body to handle weight, he trains his soul to handle life. A savage mentality is built on consistency, the ability to show up every single day, no matter the circumstances. It's easy to work hard when everything feels perfect, when the energy is high, and when results come fast. But the real test begins when progress slows down, when your body feels heavy, and your mind starts questioning why you're still doing this. That's when most people fade away. But a savage, he keeps moving. He doesn't count the days, he makes the days count. He understands that consistency doesn't require excitement. It requires commitment. Every morning, he wakes up and faces the same battle, not against others, but against the part of himself that wants to quit. He knows that his success doesn't come from bursts of motivation, but from showing up relentlessly, especially when it's hard. The savage keeps his word to himself, even when no one is watching. He doesn't skip a session because he's tired. And he doesn't take shortcuts because he's impatient. His consistency is his armor, and it protects him from the weakness that tries to creep in every day. Consistency is what builds character. Anyone can go hard for a week, a month, maybe even a season, but it takes a savage to keep grinding for years. He understands that great results are built through small, repeated actions. Each workout may not feel like a breakthrough, but over time, the discipline comes back. It's the repetition of effort that forges strength. He treats every rep, every set, every meal, every decision like it matters because it does. Every choice either moves him closer to his vision or away from it. Even on days when his body aches and his mind is clouded, he shows up. Not because it's easy, but because he promised himself he would. He doesn't rely on feelings, he relies on purpose. Feelings fluctuate, but purpose remains. That's why the savage outlasts the motivator. He's built his foundation on consistency, and consistency doesn't need permission from emotion. It simply demands action. There are times when progress feels invisible, when the mirror doesn't show change, when the numbers stall, and when fatigue feels endless. Most people stop here, but the savage pushes through the plateau because he knows consistency always wins in the long run. Every day he stays disciplined, his foundation strengthens, his body adapts, his mind sharpens, and his soul grows more unshakable. He's not chasing instant results, he's building permanent strength. Consistency also teaches patience. The savage understands that great transformations take time. The results he's chasing aren't meant to come overnight, they are meant to be earned. That slow process refines him, it humbles him, it reminds him that real strength is built through endurance, not haste. Every day he stays the course. He proves to himself that he's in this for more than just appearance. He's in it for growth, discipline, and mastery. The savage knows that excuses are the enemy of consistency. He doesn't let weather, mood, or minor setbacks become reasons to stop. If the gym is closed, he trains at home. If his schedule changes, he adjusts and still gets it done. He's not waiting for perfect conditions. He creates progress in imperfect moments. That's what makes him different. That's what gives him the edge. Over time, his consistency becomes unshakable confidence. Not the kind of confidence built on compliments or recognition, but the kind built through self-respect. He knows what he's capable of because he's proven it to himself day after day. That quiet confidence fuels him in every area of life. Because if he can conquer his own laziness, his own excuses, his own comfort, then there's nothing left that can truly stop him. Consistency also builds trust with himself. Every time he says, "I will," and follows through, he strengthens that inner belief. He no longer needs motivation from outside sources because he's learned to depend on his own word. That's the ultimate form of strength, trusting yourself enough to know that no matter what happens, you will show up. And that trust becomes a fire that never goes out. In the end, the savage realizes that greatness isn't found in one big moment. It's found in thousands of small moments, done with purpose and persistence. Each day, he lays another brick in the foundation of his legacy. It's not about perfection, it's about consistency. He knows that every time he shows up, he's becoming the kind of person who can handle anything life throws at him. And that right there is what makes his mindset truly savage. A savage mindset is built through self-control, the ability to command yourself when your emotions try to take over. It's easy to act strong when everything goes your way, but real strength shows when things don't. The savage doesn't lose his focus when he feels frustrated, tired, or distracted. He learns to master his impulses instead of being mastered by them. In the gym, that means controlling his form, his breathing, and his patience. Outside the gym, it means controlling his reactions, his habits, and his discipline. Self-control is the difference between temporary effort and lasting power. When he's lifting, he doesn't let anger or excitement control him. He channels it. He knows that every rep must be intentionally calculated. He doesn't rush through the set because he knows precision is power. His control keeps him sharp, it prevents injury, builds better results, and strengthens his focus. The savage understands that being in control doesn't mean holding back. It means directing his energy with purpose. In a world full of distractions, self-control becomes his secret weapon. While others waste time scrolling, comparing, or complaining, he stays locked in. He values his time because he knows it's the only resource he can't get back. He schedules his training, his meals, and his recovery with discipline. He doesn't chase comfort, he chases consistency. Every decision reflects control over his desires, and that control keeps him ahead of everyone else who moves without direction. Self-control also defines how he handles failure. The average person gets emotional when they don't see progress. They complain, lose motivation, or quit. But the savage stays composed. He studies his mistakes, adjusts his approach, and comes back stronger. He doesn't waste energy on frustration. He uses it as fuel. Every setback becomes a lesson in patience and resilience. That calm control under pressure is what separates him from those who only perform when everything feels easy. When temptations appear, junk food, late nights, laziness, shortcuts, the savage doesn't care. He understands that every small compromise chips away at his bigger goal. Self-control means saying no to what feels good now so he can earn what feels great later. He reminds himself that strength isn't just about lifting heavy. It's about lifting yourself above your impulses. Every time he resists temptation, he strengthens his discipline like another muscle. The savage self-control also affects his mindset toward progress. He doesn't rush the process or demand instant change. He knows transformation takes time, and impatience is the enemy of mastery. While others chase quick results, he stays focused on long-term growth. His patience gives him clarity. He's not distracted by temporary ups and downs. He's steady, consistent, and composed. Because control isn't about speed, it's about direction. He also practices control in his words and thoughts. He doesn't speak negatively about his journey because he knows words shape mindset. He doesn't fill his mind with doubt or excuses. He fills it with purpose and belief. When his thoughts drift toward weakness, he pulls them back to focus. That's mental control. It's the same control that keeps him from skipping a session, from overeating, from giving less than his best. It's the quiet discipline that builds unshakable strength. Self-control teaches him humility. He doesn't need to show off his strength or prove himself to others. His actions speak louder than his words. He doesn't waste energy trying to impress anyone because he knows that true power is quiet. That's why the savage is respected, not because he talks about what he'll do, does it with precision, discipline, and composure. When challenges arise, the savage doesn't panic. He pauses, breathes, and adjusts. That control allows him to handle pressure with clarity. In training, that means staying calm when the way feels impossible. In life, that means staying grounded when things fall apart. His control becomes his peace, not because the world is easy, but because he's learned to master his response to it. Ultimately, self-control is the root of mastery. Without it, strength turns into chaos. With it, strength becomes art. The savage understands that the ability to control his actions, his emotions, and his habits gives him power that no one can take away. It's not about being perfect. It's about being disciplined enough to stay focused, no matter what. That's what makes his mindset unbreakable. That's what makes him truly savage. A savage mentality is built through hunger, not just the hunger for food or success, but the deep, burning hunger to become more than you were yesterday. It's the fire that wakes you before sunrise and pushes you long after others have stopped. The savage knows that the moment he becomes satisfied, he begins to decline. So he never allows himself to settle. He feeds his hunger with goals, with vision, and with a constant desire to grow. That hunger is what separates the average lifter from the one who dominates the gym, the mind, and his life. When he trains like a man who still has something to prove, not to others, but to himself. He remembers where he started, the struggle, the pain, the days when he felt weak, and he refuses to go back there. That memory becomes fuel. The hunger drives him to go one more rep, to lift a little heavier, to move a little faster, and to demand more from himself every single time. It's not pride, it's purpose, because the savage knows that comfort kills growth, and hunger is the spark that keeps growth alive. Hunger gives him vision. He's not just training for appearance. He's training for mastery. He sees beyond the mirror and into the mindset. Every workout is a step toward becoming someone unrecognizable, someone stronger, more focused, and more disciplined. He's hungry to see what he's truly capable of, hungry to test his limits, and hungry to discover how far faith, focus, and effort can really take him. That hunger keeps him alive inside, even when his body feels drained. The savage doesn't wait for motivation. He manufactures it through his hunger. While others scroll for inspiration, he's already working. Hunger doesn't allow him to waste time. He's obsessed with progress, and that obsession drives his consistency. It keeps him locked in when the excitement fades, because hunger isn't an emotion, it's an identity. The savage doesn't train because he feels like it. He trains because it's who he is. When challenges come, hunger gives him energy. Tired, hungry keeps him going. Discouraged, hunger reminds him why he started. Hungry people don't make excuses, they find ways. They adapt, they overcome, and they keep moving forward. That mindset turns obstacles into opportunities. The savage doesn't see roadblocks, he sees chances to prove his resilience. And every time he overcomes, his hunger grows stronger. This hunger also keeps him humble. No matter how far he's come, he knows there's always more to achieve, more to learn, and more to conquer. He doesn't get comfortable at the top because he remembers how hard it was to climb. The hunger inside him keeps him disciplined, grateful, and focused. It prevents arrogance and replaces it with pride. He doesn't crave applause, he craves progress. Hunger teaches him endurance. It keeps him moving when results come slowly. The savage doesn't give up when he's not rewarded immediately because he knows that real growth takes time. That steady his journey, he devours it, one disciplined day at a time. Even when no one believes in him, his hunger becomes his food. He doesn't need validation from others because his effort speaks louder than their opinions. Every rep, every drop of sweat, every disciplined choice tells the world that he's still hungry, still chasing greatness, still becoming sharper, still evolving. The savage doesn't compete with others. He competes with his last version, determined to leave it behind. Hunger also fuels his faith. He believes that effort is never wasted, that every ounce of energy he puts into his training, his mindset, and his habits is being multiplied in the background. That belief strengthens his purpose. It turns struggle into strength and doubt into direction. The more he hungers for excellence, the more his Creator blesses his discipline with growth. Hunger becomes his spiritual fire, pure, focused, and unstoppable. And in the end, hunger defines his legacy. Because while talent fades and motivation dies, hunger never stops. It keeps him chasing, pushing, and evolving long after others have quit. That's why the savage never truly finishes. He just keeps becoming better. His hunger is what drives him through every storm, every wave, and every climb. It's not about being perfect, it's about being relentless. And that hunger, that unstoppable fire within, is what makes him truly savage. In the end, the savage doesn't just transform his body, he transforms his destiny. Every rep he lifts, every morning he rises, every obstacle he crushes becomes proof that strength is earned through struggle. The weights will test your will, but your mindset decides your victory. So walk into every workout with the fire of purpose. Silence your doubt, control your emotions, and move with focus. Because the savage within you is waiting for you to rise, to fight, to dominate. Remember, strength is not given to those who wish for it. It's given to those who work for it, lead for it, and stay consistent when everyone else walks away. That's what it means to live with a savage mentality.